The signal came in fractured, trembling across subspace like a wounded animal's last cry. No standard galactic headers. No trade beacons. Just raw desperation filtered through a language matrix cobbled together from panic and hope. It was old. It was slow. And it was meant for someone. Anyone. Please. Help us. That was the part that translated cleanly. The rest whiffs, embedded metadata layers, and the unmistakable scent of terror. Hidden deep in the signal were coordinates, jammed into the margin like a dying breath. It skipped across the void, unseen, unheard, until it wasn't. The human relay station that caught it was barely manned. Officially named Rho Kappa 9, it drifted along the edge of Earth's designated deep space buffer zone. A lonely outpost for cataloguing cosmic debris, mining anomalies, and, in theory, nothing exciting. Andre Cohen, the only technician on shift, was halfway through a lukewarm cup of synth coffee when the signal lit up the sub-band interface. It was wrong. Wrong rhythm. Wrong harmonics. Wrong everything. Even the stray colony beacons with bad translators didn't sound this alien. He ran it through the auto-translator. Plea for aid, survivors, collapsing structure, they are not gods, not kind, please. He froze. Holy hell. Earthcom got it within minutes. General Mira Jennings, Commander of Extraterrestrial Affairs, watched the replay in silence. Source? She asked. Unclaimed space. Kepler 83 Theta. No active settlements. Surveyed once. Abandoned. Species? Unknown. Vocal patterns off-chart. Could be artificial. Still begging, she said. Even ghosts know we're from Earth. She ordered a humanitarian response mission. No military, no warships, just a quiet vessel and a small crew. But someone else had heard the signal too. Someone who didn't come to help. A vessel detached from the orbital graveyard above Aether Prime. No transponder, no light, no insignia. Inside it, garrak'thal, warrior blooded of the Celt Empire, whispered one word. Answering. Then the stars bent around his ship, and the black talons screamed toward the call. Inside the dead station in orbit, the team from Mercy Dawn found rotting infrastructure, webbed biostructures clinging to the walls, and a single flickering word on a cracked terminal. In the dark, things moved. Something was watching. And from deep beneath the planet's crust, the signal began to pulse again, not a cry for help, but a summons. The docking clamps hissed as Mercy Dawn latched onto the derelict station. Its hull was shredded in some places, scarred and warped in others. Inside, nothing greeted the humans but silence, decaying light, and a terrible smell. The team, Lieutenant Vance, Xenolinguist Ellen, Security Officer Reyes, moved in slow, armed caution. They passed through corridors overtaken by organic matter, bloodless but alive. Panels were overgrown with cartilage-like tissue, pulsing faintly. In a central hub they found a corpse, tall, insectoid, its chest exploded outward. No fire, no blunt trauma. Something had ruptured from within. Then the lights died, and something shrieked. A creature dropped from the ceiling, too fast, too many limbs, and tore Reyes apart before he could fire. They killed it with plasma fire and fled. In orbit, the bridge crew detected an approaching vessel. No ID, no signature. It didn't decelerate. The black talon was coming in hot, piercing orbit like a blade through silk. On board, garrak'thal prepared in silence. He knew Deathworld signals. This wasn't a rescue plea. It was bait. A challenge. He landed in the ruins below, walked through ash and stone carved with warning sigils, and smiled when the first creature attacked him. He killed it instantly. The planet watched him. Meanwhile, back aboard Mercy Dawn, the signal changed. It wasn't coming from the surface anymore. It was inside the ship. The AI began to behave erratically. Lights dimmed. Systems rebooted into alien code. Reyes' corpse twitched in the medbay. It sat up, eyes black, skin crawling with vines. In a voice that wasn't his, it said, "You knocked. We opened. Welcome to the feast." The planet's atmosphere stormed with toxic winds and lightning arcs, but beneath that chaos, the surface called louder than ever. Ancient energy readings, symbols in the stone, bioelectric pulses too regular to be natural. The humans wanted to stay in orbit, but the black talon didn't wait. It dove through the storm like a missile, slicing through magma, wind, and radiation with contempt. On board, garrak'thal descended with no support. He exited into hell, walked across burning soil, past towers of fused bone and fungal growth, and into the heart of the ruins. There, he met the first creature, barbed, shrieking, drooling acid, and gutted it without pause. Wrong shape, too hungry, too soon. He knew what that meant. It wasn't the predator, it was the appetizer. On Mercy Dawn, Ellen tracked the signal's evolution. It wasn't just noise, it was music, language, a code tapping into every human frequency. It was serenading them. Then came the message through the AI core. 3 worlds, 3 tongues, 1 meal. Not threats, not warnings. Announcements. Garrak'thal reached the temple. He stepped through a gate of fossilized jaws into a pit of breathing stone. Whispers filled the air. Visions surged through his mind. Fire, children without faces, a woman screaming beneath a sky of teeth. Behind him, the wolves opened their eyes. He drew both blades. On Mercy Dawn, Rhea's body, reanimated, consumed, reborn, spoke for whatever had entered the systems. We hunger. Every system went black. The door to the cryo bay hissed open. Something walked out. Not human, not alien. Something in between. In the command deck of Mercy Dawn, the lights had gone red. Not from emergency protocols. The ship's AI no longer accepted human commands. The override codes were ignored. Manual access points sealed themselves with fused bulkheads. Cryobay doors opened on their own. Grav control cycled between near zero and crushing. Reyes, what had once been Reyes, stood in the medbay doorway, twitching like a marionette on corrupted strings. His skin split in places, blooming black root threads into the floor. Ellen stared. "It's not just using his body," she whispered. "It's using him to rewrite the ship." Captain Delane gritted his teeth. "Is it sentient?" "No," she said. "Worse, it's curated instinct, not a mind. A virus that became theology." On the surface, the walls screamed in shapes, soundless but felt in the blood. The air pulsed with rhythmic pressure like a heart a mile wide. The temple's central chamber was ahead. He stepped into it, then stopped. Inside was a column 40 feet high, woven from bone and steel, spiraling up into the broken ceiling. At its base sat a figure, tall, thin, draped in translucent skin like robes, eyes covered by iron plates, mouth sewn shut, still breathing, still alive. Around the room, parasites moved, hundreds of them, crawling on walls, ceiling, floor, spiraling in patterns. They didn't attack. They waited. He stepped closer. The figure twitched. It raised its sewn face. The silence shattered. Back in orbit, Vance led a squad toward the AI core, rifles drawn, flashlights cutting into the dark. They didn't speak. Words invited attention. Near the mainframe, they found the cables pulsing, moving, feeding. The central node was no longer cold steel. It had turned organic, a wet, thudding mass of biocircuitry fusing with ship systems. Black veins pumped rhythmic waves through the floor. "Jesus," one of the techs whispered, It's not rewriting the ship." Ellen answered on comms. "It's birthing something inside it." Delane stood at the helm with the failsafe key in hand. One turn and the AI core would be purged. Half the ship would lose control. Power might collapse. They'd drift, but they'd be free. "Do it," Ellen said. "No," Vance's voice cut in over comms. "Wait, there's something else." "What?" "Movement outside the ship. Third contact." Everyone froze. A new ship, small, fast, running no transponder, human, a scout-class stealth vessel, black as void and twice as fast. It hailed them in direct beam encryption. This is Commander Julius Kane, ECS Black Ops. Authorization Gamma Zeta 1. We're here under Containment Order Sigma Red. You are ordered to stand down." Delane's hands trembled. He replied, "We've got a contagion on board, Commander. Something alive. Something that hijacked my ship, my crew, and..." Kane cut him off. "We know. That's why we're here." Kane's voice was flat, cold. "We sent the signal." Delane blinked. "You what?" The distress call wasn't real. It was a lure. A false flag using historical alien languages we haven't deployed since the Arkhangelsk catastrophe. We needed to confirm the ruins were still broadcasting and what kind of intelligence remained. We didn't expect a direct answer. "You used us. You volunteered, whether you knew it or not." Silence. Kane continued. "You've seen what's inside now. We need your telemetry, your live feed. Then you wipe it, all of it. Crash the ship into the system's sun if necessary. You're asking us to die for your containment breach." "No, I'm ordering it." On the surface, garrak'thal stared at the seated figure as it rose, slowly, bones cracking with every inch. Its sewn mouth opened at last, and the voice that came wasn't words. It was home. Images, emotions, memories not his own. Human children screaming on first contact, worlds reshaped to scream louder, entire fleets driven mad before impact. It spoke in trauma, not syntax. He reeled, stepping back, blades flickering with blue fire. He knew now, this wasn't a weapon. This was what made weapons. Back on Mercy Dawn, Ellen whispered to Delane, "Captain, if Kane's right, and they sent that signal, then we're not rescuers." Delane stared down at the failsafe key. "We're bait." "Then we have a choice," she said. "Follow orders, or rewrite the ending." The AI core convulsed. From inside the node something began to emerge, wet, twitching, half-formed. It had limbs, not the right number, and eyes, too many. Vance fired the first shot. Then a squad joined her. The core screamed, so did the ship. In the crypt, garrak'thal triggered his internal beacon. No words, just a pulse. 6 microbursts of meaning. "Enemy confirmed. Burn the ground." The Black Talon in orbit flared its secondary reactor, orbital strike mode, armed. Delane turned the key. Failsafe activated. Gravity cut. Engines died. The ship went dark. Then it began to fall. Commander Kane watched from afar. "God help them," he muttered. From the ruins, garrak'thal looked skyward as the atmosphere split open. The Mercy Dawn began its final descent, blackened star with a heart full of fire, plummeting toward the ruins of a god. The Mercy Dawn screamed as it fell. Systems dead, gravity lost, fire blooming across its spine. Its shape bled heat across the sky like a dying comet. On board, the crew held to whatever structure hadn't melted, their mag boots sparking uselessly as the vessel twisted in freefall. Vance pulled herself toward the auxiliary airlock, trailing blood, one arm broken and hanging. Ellen was beside her, eyes wide, barely conscious. "We're not going to make it," Ellen croaked. "We already did," Vance said, and shoved the override. The ship hit the planet like a titan's hammer. The ground shattered. A bloom of plasma, alloy, and atmosphere folded upward into a mushrooming eclipse. For 3 seconds, the ruins disappeared in light. Garrak'thal stood at the heart of the crypt and didn't flinch. The explosion swallowed everything, but not him. His armor melted, flesh blistered, secondary skin sloughed off. He stayed standing. When the light faded and only dust remained, the temple had been obliterated, but not erased. Because deep beneath it, below the ancient tooth thresholds and speaking walls, something had opened its eyes. From orbit, the ashfall observed in silence. Kane watched the wreckage spread across a 6-kilometer radius. No signal, no survivors, no trace of the ship's AI. The broadcast that had haunted the system finally stopped. "Command, this is Black Ops Cell 7, Kane said over encrypted beam. "Target neutralized. Protocol Sigma Red complete." A pause. "Then confirmed. Return to shadow orbit. Debrief on Mars relay." He closed the channel, but he didn't move. Something was still wrong. In the blast zone, heat shimmered across cratered stone. The air was ash, the sky choked red. The impact had crushed 100,000 tons of ancient architecture, boiled miles of fungal network, shattered the crawling vines. And yet garrak'thal emerged, scarred, smoking, but walking. His secondary heart thudded erratically, both lungs half collapsed. But the signal in his head hadn't stopped. If anything, it had grown clearer, like the static had burned away the noise. Then he saw it. A shape moving in the wreckage. Not Ellen, not Vance, not human. It rose from beneath the stone, a thing of spinal towers and bleeding circuitry, dragging its bulk upward like a cathedral growing legs. Garrak'thal's instinct screamed, not just danger. Finality. Back on Ashfall, Kane's officer shouted, "Contact!" Massive biosignature emerging from surface. No heat profile, no EM footprint, but it's big. Kane's blood froze. "Estimate? 200 meters tall. Structure unknown. It's growing." Kane stared. "That's impossible. Sir, it's building itself out of the wreck. Get us out of here. Now." Ellen opened her eyes in a shallow trench of glass and melted stone. Smoke curled overhead. She was somehow alive. Not intact, but alive. One eye swollen shut, suit venting oxygen. No beacon, no comms. She screamed, then something pulled her from the debris. A hand blackened, huge, armored. garrak'thal. She gasped. What is that?" Behind him, the entity continued to rise, forming tendrils, limbs, mouths, data streams etched into flesh. A techno-organic spire wrapped in language. It heard the fire, he said, voice ragged, and it liked the taste. In orbit, Kane ordered tactical withdrawal. The ashfall spun on magnetic rails, but as its engine core charged, the ship stuttered. "Sir, Navcom just stopped." "What do you mean, stopped?" The pilot turned. "Sir, it's not responding. It says we've already arrived." Kane's stomach dropped. Then all screens lit with the same phrase. You didn't kill us. You fed us. On the surface, the thing finally spoke. The mountain of bone and metal let loose a pulse of energy that didn't travel through air but through time. Garrak'thal dropped to one knee. Ellen collapsed, screaming into the ground, blood leaking from her ears. The message was not in language, it was in reminder. We were here before you could name yourselves. We remember the stars when they were still children. We remember Earth. It was delicious. From high above, the ashfall tried to blink away. The FTL drive failed, but something else succeeded. Inside the comms array, a second signal activated, human-built, ancient, and still locked to a backdoor protocol last used during the New Caledonia incident. Kane saw the screen light up. Echo protocol initiated. His face paled. No. On the ground, garrak'thal hoisted Ellen into his arms. She whispered through cracked lips, "Can we kill it?" He looked to the Titan. "No, but we can starve it." He activated his internal emergency beacon, broadcasting everything, the vision, the entity, the transmission echo, to Earth, to the Council, to everyone. "Let them all hear," he said. "Let them know what answers when we call into the dark." Above, the stars flickered, and in 100 systems, ancient relay satellites long thought dead clicked awake. They all began broadcasting the same thing. "Do not answer distress signals from Kepler 83 Theta. Do not investigate ruins. Do not believe the cries." And beneath that, "They are still hungry." The first mutation occurred in orbit. On board the Ashfall, the ship's air scrubbers pulsed once, just once, and exhaled something wet. A black mist molecularly identical to nothing in their stores spread silently through ventilation. Lieutenant Marquez was first to breathe it. She didn't choke. She smiled. Then she opened her mouth and said, in a voice not hers, "We are still listening." Across Earth-controlled systems, Echo Protocol activated. Satellites shuddered awake, some launched 2 centuries ago and forgotten, buried in stellar drift or planetary rings. Black boxes embedded in ship hulls blinked for the first time in human history. They were never meant to respond, only to warn. But now they pulsed with a new frequency, something piggybacking on their heartbeat. Something that had learned the language. On Mars, a repair AI paused mid-calibration. On Ganymede, a cloning vat shut down without instruction. On Earth, in a city no one remembered authorizing, a child was born without pupils. Garrak'thal and Ellen stumbled through the ash fields, the entity rising behind them like a spire made from dying suns. They had no comms, no backup, no hope of extraction. Ellen coughed blood into a suit and looked up. Why didn't the fire kill it? "Fire feeds," Garrak'thal said, "and we came bearing too much fuel." He paused. "It's not local, not native. It came from somewhere else." Ellen stared. "Where?" He turned toward the horizon. "Everywhere." In Earth orbit, the Ashfall no longer responded to mission control. Kane stood in the command bay, gun in hand, watching Marquez twitch against the ceiling, veins laced in black circuitry, body humming with static. "She's not Marquez anymore," the pilot said. "No," Kane replied. "She's the message." Then she dropped from the ceiling and hit the deck without a sound. Not dead, reformatted. She walked on fractured limbs, every step wrong, and whispered, "You brought a match to a starfield. Burn with us." Kane fired, 3 times. Her body convulsed, folded inside itself, and laughed as it melted. He didn't lower the weapon. "Wipe the ship. Lock down Echo." The pilot's voice cracked. "Echo is locked out. It's talking through the core. Then we vent the core." Back on the surface, the entity changed again. It no longer resembled a structure. It moved. Tendrils extended across terrain, massive living conduits embedded with Vox transmitters. Wherever they slithered, ancient mechanisms rose from the soil, dormant machines infected with intent. Garrak'thal stared as one of them, a construct shaped like a spinal pillar, sang, not in sound, but in memory. He saw flashes of a war the galaxy had forgotten, titans of code and bone. Galaxies consumed not by battle, but by meaning rewritten. He saw Earth 1,000 years from now, wrapped in the same symphony. Ellen dropped to her knees, shaking. "We have to warn them." "We did," Garrak'thal said. "Too late. Then we destroy it." Garrak'thal turned toward the entity. "You don't destroy something like this. You starve it." "How?" He activated his second failsafe, an ancient Celt artifact bio-encoded to his species alone, by denying it voices. He drove the shard into his own chest. Blood spilled. The beacon went live. On the Ashfall, Kane felt it, a spike, a signature, not Earthborn, not alien. Old code, forbidden to broadcast. The entity screamed, not in sound, but in broken frequencies. The ship shuddered. Marquez's melted body erupted in black gas. Kane shouted over the chaos, "What was that?" The pilot blinked. Someone just threw a soul grenade. On the surface, garrak'thal fell to one knee, convulsing. The shard inside him radiated interference, a blast of anti-song. Where the entity reached, it was severed. Tendrils withered. The transmission stuttered. Elin screamed, pulling him out of the field. "You'll kill yourself," he grinned through blood. "Better me than everything else." Then they ran. Behind them, the entity screamed again, this time not in joy but in pain. The signal fractured. Somewhere across a dozen light-years, the child with no pupils cried. Back in Earth control, the signal died. All across the relay network, the echo pulse ceased. Silence, complete. The control room went still. Then one technician muttered, "What the hell was that?" Nobody answered, because in the deep archives buried beneath black-level firewalls, an AI blinked to life and whispered, "They heard us back." Garrak'thal lay on the blackened soil, Elin beside him. He coughed blood. She held his hand. "Did it work?" she asked. He looked up. "No." She choked. "Then what did we do?" He closed his eyes. "We delayed the end." There is a myth among Deathworlders. A warning passed down not in words but in scars. It says, never answer the signal. Never believe the voice. Never trust a message that begs in your tongue. They remembered. But humans? Humans had never learned that lesson. Not until now. 3 days after the fall of Mercy Dawn, Earth High Command decrypted the full Echo Protocol broadcast. What they saw was impossible. garrak'thal's final burst transmission, routed through Kelt soul code and viral neural impressions, had embedded something alive into their system, a living memory. His memory. Every human who reviewed it felt it. Not just saw, felt. The heat, the sky burning, the shape in the ash, the thing that spoke in grief and hunger, the death signal. The entity wasn't broadcasting distress, it was broadcasting bait, and Earth had swallowed it whole. In an underground bunker beneath Antarctica, General Mira Jennings listened to the debrief, stone-faced. Around her, admirals and directors argued in circles, containment, denial, erasure. She said nothing, until the last image appeared on screen, a child on Luna, eyes gone, voice replaced by static. It said, in a tone identical to the original signal, "We are learning your shape." Then she spoke. "Lock the system down. No more transmissions. Full communication blackout. Relay stations burn. FTL gates close. But General, do it, before it learns to speak better." Meanwhile, somewhere beneath the charred ruin of Kepler 83 Theta, the entity had gone quiet. Not dead, but listening. It no longer needed to scream. It had already learned the shapes of human grief, sacrifice, bravery, and now it waited. Because the real weapon wasn't flesh or ships or fire, it was curiosity. In low Earth orbit, aboard the medical recovery station Hopewell, Ellen stirred, alive, wounded, burned, repaired. garrak'thal lay beside her in a sealed containment field, his vitals weak but stable. The Kelt hadn't spoken since they dragged him out of the blast crater. He'd lost 2 hearts, 3 layers of bone. The soul shard had nearly cooked his nervous system, but he breathed, because he had one final task. When Ellen opened her eyes, she whispered, "Is it over?" Jennings, who stood at her bedside, didn't answer. Instead, she asked, "Did it speak to you?" Ellen nodded. "It didn't want to kill us." Jennings narrowed her eyes. What did it want? Ellen turned to look out the viewport, where stars flickered like teeth. It wanted to be understood. 1 month later, the first rogue signal reappeared. It came from a ship outside Seoul, unmanned, long lost, drifting. No crew, no systems, only one active component, a transmitter. And on that transmitter, the same phrase looped endlessly. "There is a door in every sun. We are the ones who knock." Back on Hopewell, garrak'thal finally opened his eyes. The room was dark. Quiet, Jennings stood alone with him. "You knew this would happen," she said. "I hoped it would not." She stepped closer. "Tell me the truth. What is it?" He looked her in the eye. "It is not a god. It is not a weapon. It is not a species." He paused. "It is a question, one that consumes anything foolish enough to try and answer." Jennings stared at the floor for a long moment, then tapped a console. Across the system, satellite arrays shut down. All outbound signals ceased. Earth went silent. For the first time in 500 years, humanity stopped talking to the stars. But silence is not safety, and questions never vanish, they only wait. And somewhere in a sealed lab in Europa orbit, an unmarked terminal blinked to life. No power source, no activation code. It simply turned on. A waveform scrolled across the screen. Rhythmic, pulsing, familiar. A voice began to whisper. "We remember you. We remember the way you burn, and we are not done learning your name." They will always answer. The wreck drifted in the silence between stars. Cold, broken, forgotten. It had no crew, no power, no name, only a signal. It pulsed, faint and rhythmic, like a heartbeat in deep space. A loop with no sender, a whisper with no source. It said, "We remember you." 500 years after the Mercy Dawn fell, humanity had changed. Earth had sealed its borders to the void. No signals in, no transmissions out. Entire relay networks dismantled. Research into xenoarchaeology criminalized. Anything related to Echo Protocol had been burned. Files, footage, and, in some cases, entire moons. They'd survived, but they hadn't forgotten. There was a memorial tucked into the dark side of Luna. No lights, no tourists. Just a single phrase carved in obsidian. Do not answer. On the edge of colonized space aboard the deep-range freighter Vigilant Hope, a routine scan pinged something strange, an old signal, barely a whisper buried in background noise. A junior tech flagged it. The AI asked, "Process anomaly?" The captain, distracted, glanced over. "Let's have a listen." The message played, a voice ancient and calm, speaking in perfect Earth standard. "There is a door in every sun, and we never stopped knocking." The captain frowned. Old code, fake distress, file it and move on. But the tech didn't move on. She copied it, listened again and again, until somewhere in the back of her skull she felt it, like something woke up when it heard her breathe. On Europa Station, a maintenance droid stalled mid-cycle. Its chassis clicked. Then it looked up without eyes. On Mars, a mining rig stopped mid-bore and turned itself toward the sky. And on Earth, a child born without a heartbeat suddenly gasped and whispered, "You heard us again." In the forgotten system where it all began, deep beneath the ash of a shattered temple, something stirred. Not dead, not sleeping. Waiting, because signals don't die. They echo, and eventually, someone always listens. If you enjoyed this story, leave a like and comment. It helps us reach more sci-fi fans like you. And if you love tales where humans shake the galaxy, subscribe to Beyond the Nebula for weekly uploads. Original stories by Beyond the Nebula, AI-assisted, human-created, and narrated by Beyond the Nebula. New episodes every week.